diets and medications. I think it'd be best to hear about this information in a clear, from a professional standpoint. So
Sure.
first, I want to ask you, what do you think about the natural weight loss methods that are out there today, like intermittent fasting or keto diets? What is your take?
That is a loaded question. I myself have been on some sort of diet since I was 15 years old, whether it was Atkins or Ducan or Weight Watchers or Nutrisystem and I hope I don't have to pay any of those people that I said their names. But the reality is that weight loss is difficult. Weight loss is difficult for a number of reasons. Food is delicious. Um, and for some people, they use food as an emotional anchor. And not all people, it's kind of a broad, brushstroke, but some people use food as an emotional anchor. Some people socialize for work and need to go out in situations and have a cocktail or go out to dinners and take people out. So there's a reason for everything. Some people's jobs require eating at night because they work at night and their schedule shifts. So a lot of things happen. Also, I think we are a sedentary society. I certainly think that 20, 30 years ago, people maybe moved a little more, were outside a little bit more, were a little bit more active. And I think that with technology, people are kind of home a little bit more, are not as social in the real world anymore. So I think those kind of things go into play. I believe that whatever an individual can do that's best for them is best for them. I personally do not believe in intermittent fasting. Why? Because you're fasting when you sleep. Okay. Um, I don't know when breakfast stopped being the most important meal of the day, but you do need that kind of that charge, if you will, that kind of get up and go and make your, day full. I understand in the 50s, breakfasts were steak and eggs. May not be the most healthy, but people were having breakfast. I don't believe in processed cereals and processed foods to that extent, but you have to have your good carbs, your good fats, your protein, because your brain needs it. For some people, intermittent fasting works. If it works for you and you're healthy, God bless you. That it's not a me thing. It's not something that I believe in because I personally like to work out in the morning. So then you need some fuel. You need to, get your protein and carbs, like I said. So everybody's different. Keto, I'm gonna get lambasted for this. I don't believe in keto either. I don't think it's great. I know a lot of cardiologists tout its benefits. I think that if you are a type 1 diabetic, keto is great for you because your body doesn't process carbohydrates the right way. Um, and so keto is a great option. I think for the everyday person, keto may not be a great option. That being said, I have patients who look like they're fitness models who swear by keto. If it works for you, God bless you. Doesn't work for me because I like bread. I like vegetables. I like pasta. And you have to find a weight loss program. And I hate saying diet because I don't want to say diet because diets are short-lived. Diets are, let me get to that party and then whatever happens afterwards. Let me get to that event because I only want to look good for the vet. So I really like to say like a health loss, a health improvement journey, a weight loss journey, because it's always a journey. And it shouldn't be just set for a certain kind of specific time or event. So I believe whatever someone does that's healthy, that will work for them and then keep them on the right track is great. And if you can do it naturally, that's absolutely fantastic. It's hard. It's hard because, particularly with women of a certain age, our hormones start playing a factor, fatigue, all these, different things, and people get hungry. So, I think it's a very individualized kind of approach. I believe personally in calorie deficit, in managing your macronutrients, your protein, your carbs, your fat, because I think that allows you to give yourself the opportunity to have something that you enjoy. It's all about portion control. So that's kind of what I approach it as. And when my patients come and see me, while I don't give them, I'm not a nutritionist and I do not give them a diet plan or what do you eat. I do guide them and tell them you should be weighing your food, you should be considering this. So they understand. So they understand that it's not a short-term thing that they're going to have to continuously do it if they want to lose weight and then harder than losing weight, maintain the weight loss.
Absolutely. And I think you touched upon a lot of really important points there. One of which being the way that we live right now has means a lot of processed food. It's everywhere. It's in the grocery aisles, at everyone's house, every pantry. But I think that it's become a little too normalized because we don't realize that like these common foods that everyone has and they're everywhere are genuinely so like harmful to our bodies. And I
Absolutely.
remember reading something, I believe it was some kind of red dye that had some kind of impact on your behavior, especially in children. And when I was looking at it, I was like, hey, this is in so many common snacks and junk food that children have all the time. And it doesn't have the same
So,
effect on everyone. But it's just something that I remembered when you were talking about that. Like, it's become way too normalized, I think. And I
yes, it's
also,
yes,
yes. And you touched upon the fact that we become very like we stay in one place, we become homebodies, and we're not a very active generation. We're not in a super duper active time, even though we have so many. I think a lot of that it doesn't have as much to do with like our communities per se, but more so because we had the pandemic. So we got so used to that kind of lifestyle and we got out of like the
absolutely.
habit of being active and going outside. And it's not like we forget again that it's not natural for a person to stay indoors all day and not get outside and get their body moving. And I think that also contributes to a lot of like, I don't think our bodies are built to be so stagnant and just stay in one place. I think our bodies and minds are built for challenge. So when they don't get that, we get a little restless, I think. So that was just something that I found really interesting from what you said. And you made a lot of great points. Now, moving from that, we've got our natural options that we discussed. And then there's the medicated option. So, what are the common medicated options you guys provide at the youth fountain? And like, how do they work?
So there's a lot of options out in the world. Uh, I'm going to gloss over what's available, not specifically in terms of what we offer. We offer kind of a few different things and a few proprietary things. But what's available in the world? There's medications such as phentermine, which used to be part of what's called fen which was banned. So what it is, it's an appetite suppressant stimulant, and it basically gives you a little bit of pep, and suppresses your appetite. It's not overly harmful, but it's not something that you want to do long term because it does have potential side effects, a significant amount. It's not something that's for everyone, but there are options for it. There also is another medication. Um, uh, that is less jittery. That's an option. A big thing that was very popular several years ago was the HCG diet. So it's basically the pregnancy hormone that you were injecting in very small doses, which suppressed your appetite, but you also had to eat like a 500-calorie diet for 30 days essentially. And people lost so much weight and they preserved their lean muscle, but it was really, really hard to maintain it because after that 30 days, you kind of have to reverse diet. So you're slowly increasing your caloric intake. It was really hard, but it was great for many, many years because it was effective. It was really, really effective, but you couldn't really exercise on it. And for people who like to work out, that was a hindrance. So it's like, do I up my intake for calories? There was a lot of things. And then that kind of went by the wayside when we got the GLP agonists. And the GLP agonists have been around for many, many years. Most notably, I remember hearing about Saxenda years ago and hearing about how expensive it was going to be monthly. It was also a daily medication. And then, out comes all of the other things. Initially, it started as a diabetic medication that people noticed you were getting weight loss results. So you have the diabetic version of it, and then you have the weight loss version of it. So you have those two medications out there, and they are the GLP-1 agonists. You also have different, and those are peptides. And then you have other medications out on the market as well that have two peptides, and they're also diabetic medications and weight loss medications. So those are the ones that are out there. And I'm sure you've heard the names: Wegovy, Ozempic, Zepbound, Mounjaro, all of those names. And then those are options for people who qualify. Qualify. What does that mean? There's a number of things that insurance companies will allow for, and then they'll pay for the medication. Um, there's a lot I want to say, but I'm limited about what I can say. Right now, these companies that make these medications are trying to shut down compound pharmacies. So these are specialty pharmacies that make the medications that have the active ingredients. So the active ingredient in Wegovy and Ozempic is semaglutide. There are pharmacies that make them legally. They are FDA approved because, if you can recall, there was a big shortage. And so there are a lot of people who don't fall into the criterion that the insurance company creates to be able to get these medications. And what do I mean by that? There are patients out there that are obese with a BMI of 35 or 30 that may not have medical problems like diabetes or heart disease, but need these medications because they've tried every diet in the world and their insurance doesn't cover it. So it costs them $1,300 a month. $1,300 a month. Now, I think that's obscene. I think it's ridiculous. These medications are helping people lose weight. And what happens when people lose weight? Their cholesterol goes down, their blood pressure goes down, their blood sugars get controlled, their heart disease risk lowers. You see where I'm going at? So you're either going to be stuck taking these medications for all these medical issues for the rest of your life, or you're going to be on a medication that prevents these things from happening and allows you to be living a better, healthier life. But the insurance company does not allow for that. So they're stuck. And what do those compound pharmacies provide? An alternative, a less expensive alternative. But the pharmaceutical companies don't like that. And it's not like anybody's being taken away from it. It's patients who do not meet the requirements that the insurance company has, mandated, need these medications, but unless they're willing to spend $1,300 a month, they're not getting them.
Got it. That's really interesting. There's a lot to unpack there. From what I heard, and that really opened up my perspective because a lot of like the conversation we were having about these, we were thinking, hey, people are probably strictly like most people are probably strictly using these for like aesthetic purposes, but that's not true because that's only part of the picture. And I'm starting to understand that more and more because you're yes, you're getting the aesthetic benefits of it. And for some people, that might be their goal. But you're also, there's so many health problems and complications that occur adjacent to high weight, whether it's because of that or there's some kind of underlying condition like thyroid issues that cause other issues and weight loss. They often come hand in hand with things like chronic diseases like heart disease. So I think that was really interesting because it poses a question like, Either you're going to be treating all of these other treatments that normally people get treatments for, right? Like a lot of people take medications for things like high
Absolutely.
blood pressure, that's very common and accepted. Or maybe you can try to tackle the weight aspect, but that's something that maybe less people tend to go for or is not fully understood. But it can bring a lot of benefits for your health. So I found that really interesting. Now, seeing as there was a lot that I didn't understand about this before speaking to you, what is something that you think maybe a lot of people should know before they weigh their options for weight loss treatment?
Um, I think that certainly you should get a medical evaluation from your physician. Check blood pressure, check blood work, make sure your, blood sugars are okay, make sure that nothing is out of whack, that you know, you have to assess where your health is, where your cholesterol is, where all of these numbers are, and then, decide how you want to approach it. What small thing can you do? What one small thing can you do to change the way that you approach your everyday life? Is it going to be packing your own lunch? Great. Let's weigh it out. Let's portion control it. Is it going to be not going and getting breakfast from Dunkin' Donuts? It starts with small changes that become lifetime habits. So people sometimes have to mentally prepare themselves for it, and say, this is what I want to do. Because if a person doesn't want to do it for themselves, you're never going to get them to do it. That's just the reality. Also, you have to carve out a little bit of time to exercise. And I think that people, because they're sedentary, because they're working from home or they're commuting for hours on end, like, just it's become almost something that they don't think about, or they don't think they have time for. And I tell a lot of my patients, if you watch TV, watch it while you're walking on your treadmill. If that's the only thing that you can do, get a weighted vest, because that's a phenomenal thing, particularly for women who are in the perimenopausal, menopausal, postmenopausal, for bone maintenance and stuff like that. Get a weighted vest and just walk. I'm really an arduous supporter of strength training, particularly again for women, because a lot of my patients are women. So, and we're of that generation, of the Jane Fonda generation, where cardio and cardio and cardio. And I don't believe in doing all that. It's great for your heart. It's wonderful. But strength training is where you really will burn the calories, build that muscle, burn the fat, and really help your bones and joints and all of that stuff. So you have to carve time for that. Um, there is time, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, somewhere there is time 3 times a week to do it.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a great point that you brought up that whether like whatever wherever your life like whatever your life looks like right now, wherever you are in life, I mean, people often tend to neglect themselves, which is why we often end
Absolutely.
up in these situations where we have to take either a medication to solve our issues, which is great. Like, especially when people genuinely really need it. It's great that we have that option. It's one of the very like freeing things about modern medicine. But two things come with that. One, that people might assume that, hey, I don't need to do all this because there might be like an easier way out of this, right?
Right.
That's not necessarily the case because you should take advantage of that option that we have, what modern medicine gives you, yes, but at the same time balance your life because I don't think that without balancing your life and carving out time for exercise, balancing what you eat, you're gonna get the full benefit. That might not be completely the truth, but that's how I see it. I think you need to strike a balance between the two. And another thing about, yes, while the many modern medicines we have now are so liberating, they're helping us with so many things that we wouldn't have been able to combat a couple decades back, a century back. But at the same time, the more we're getting, the more our entire healthcare system is becoming very monetized and like profit driven, which is not to speak for everyone, but it's just a larger theme that we see all over the world. So because if in the interest of time, we don't have a ton of time left, but I have one or two more questions about the kind of larger scale implications.
Of course.
So, how do you think we can strike a balance between, fostering healthy lifestyles for people and encouraging people to try to bring that change in themselves while also like making sure they have access to these options such as medications without simply driving them into this for profit, if that makes sense.
Yes, you know, there's a lot of rules and regulations in the United States. These medications cost significantly less in other countries. That's the reality of it. And some people have been known to get them from other countries, not entirely legal. So I don't know how to make that affordable because uh, it's
It's
just
a
a
larger
big
system
thing.
at play. No, I
It's a
absolutely
big
understand.
system. It's a system kind of entrenched in putting a Band-Aid on the disease
Mm-hmm.
without preventive care. I'm a big advocate of preventive stuff
Mm-hmm.
and kind of trying to get to the root cause or before it becomes an issue. So I wish I had a solution of how we can make these things affordable because it is profit driven. Um, and there's a lot there. That's like a Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Um, the reality is though, if you look at things and this again is just what I see. I see a lot of people who complain about their weight going out to eat, buying breakfasts out, buying their coffees out. So if you can afford those things, and allowing yourself those indulgences, you can afford not to do those things and doing them at home. I'm not saying, oh, save up that money for 1 month of injections. That's not it. But it's just kind of the complaint about cost of things has a double-edged sword, and where people have to see, well, what am I doing in my life that's making things more expensive than they need to be?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that honestly, though it might seem like a challenge that's really out of our hands, it's completely, I mean, it's a big system. It's not something that we're going to try to like take on and dismantle. That's
Right.
not the objective here. But I think that what we're doing here and like what you're doing is a really good way to kind of combat that because now we're not saying that this is the wrong path or this is what you should be doing. Instead, we're giving people information so that they're informed and they can make those choices for themselves, which in turn, if that's medications, then that's great. If it's more natural weight loss or it's balance of the two, that's great. But I think people should be aware of what their options are so that they can make the choice to themselves because educated people don't get deceived very easily by like larger sort of marketing traps, whatever might have come up over the years.
Sure.
So, on that note, even though we only have a few minutes left, I just want to know we talked about striking the balance between healthy living and the sort of business side of healthcare, but I also want to know how can we strike the balance between, kind of fostering like a conversation, a good, positive conversation around self-image in relation to weight, while also keeping in mind that we want to encourage healthy weight loss.
That is a great question. A lot of, young people have it hard. I'm not, and I mean females, males, you guys have a lot of social media, you have all these filters. A lot of it is not realistic, which makes things very difficult, regardless of what your body looks like, because people are kind of deconstructing themselves. You have 11-year-olds with a skincare regime that, they're going to their local wherever. So a lot of it is kind of you're inundated with appearance and looks, and that really can affect one's self-esteem. The reality is morbid obesity isn't healthy. And I'm not fat shaming, your body, your choice. If you want to be overweight, Your body, your choice. But in my opinion, that doesn't mean you're healthy. It also doesn't mean somebody who is in a normal body weight is healthy, because there's a lot of people that are skinny fat, that are out of shape. They might look on the thinner side, but they're not healthy. So I kind of aim for health. What can you do? Can you walk 3 flights of stairs? Can you walk 3 blocks? What can you do with your body? Are you strong? Are you flexible? Are you mobile? Those are the things that I think about. So, with young people, particularly, you guys are just inundated with image, image, image everywhere. And I think that if you're lucky to have family and friends who keep you positive, not delusional, but positive, and keep you motivated, then I think that's kind of one of the things. I have 2 young children. I have boys, but for me, they've got it tough. Like I said, also image and muscles and jaw lines and all of this. And yet you have to kind of understand that that's not just it. It's about who you are as a person, how kind you are, how you treat others, like what is your mark on the world beyond what you look like.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great note to end off on because in the interest of time, I mean, I wish I could keep this conversation going, but we're gonna have to wrap it up right now. I will definitely be following up with you, and I hope that our listeners took away something from this episode. This was super informative and brought everything we've already been discussing to the next level. So thank you so much for listening. Do you have
Absolutely.
anything last to add?
Thank you for having me, and I wish the best of luck to you and to all of your listeners. And just try to stay positive and be the best version of you that you can always be.
Thank you.